You're listening to the Holistic Spaces podcast brought to you by Mindful Design Feng Shui School, episode 333, How to Improve Flow in Small Spaces with Feng Shui. Welcome to episode 333 of the Holistic Spaces podcast, where we hope to inspire, educate, and empower you to create your own holistic spaces that nurture and resonate with you. Laura Morris and Anjie Cho are the founders of the Mindful Design Feng Shui School and authors of Mindful Living, a guide to the everyday magic of Feng Shui. We teach Feng Shui online at mindfuldesignschool.com. Sign up for our mailing list for special free content, workshops, and events available only for our newsletter subscribers. And right now, we actually have something available to our newsletter subscribers. We are offering a giveaway. We have a giveaway going on. And for this giveaway, we're offering a free mini home consultation for one of our listeners. One giveaway winner will receive a free mini home consultation. And how you enter is to make sure you're signed up for our newsletter. You go to mindfuldesignschool.com/join, opt in for our newsletter. And in our newsletter, we will have a link where you can enter the giveaway. So how do you enter the giveaway? You can leave a review for us. So you can review us on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a review for the podcast, or if you've already done that, you can leave a review for our book, Mindful Living, on Amazon or on Goodreads. And then take a screenshot, because you're going to upload the screenshot when you enter the giveaway. So we hope a lot of you will do this. It's so much fun to have this mini consultation with one of our listeners. So this week, we're going to talk about flow, how to improve the flow of small spaces. So Laura is going to get us started.
Just because you might have a small home or maybe a small condo or a studio apartment doesn't mean that you cannot have great feng shui. It's a misconception that feng shui is only applicable to big sprawling homes. That's not true. Smaller spaces are just as feng shuiable as any other space. So we will offer you some easy tips to help you create a more peaceful atmosphere. We'll talk a little bit about how to arrange flow and different things like that. I will get us started, okay? Angie, I'll start with the first point. And the first thing to consider would be to create the impression of separate areas. One of the biggest challenges in a studio apartment is dividing your public space, which is the yang space. This includes living areas, dining areas, from your private sleeping area, your personal yin space. I mean, I know I have, and I know Angie has, lived in studio apartments, smaller areas, and we get it. Like, we know how tricky this can be. I lived in a studio, for many, many years, and I worked very hard to create this separation. Angie, I think, had her bed doubled as her dining table. So yeah, a desk and sofa. Basically, your bed sometimes ends up doing everything. So in feng shui, mixing the public and the private spaces can create two main issues. Firstly, it might affect your sleep, okay? Because this mixing of the yin and the yang, right? You've got a lot of active energy happening around where you should have very, quiet, passive energy, which is where you sleep. So, you're eating, you're working, you're socializing in those areas where you need to sleep. Or, your workspace is your bed, and then you have trouble kind of turning off because it's creating distractions. And even it can work on the other hand is, because you're sitting there trying to work and your bed is right there and you just want to take a nap. You can try this. Try to find ways to visually and physically separate the yin and the yang areas. You can do this with freestanding room dividers, such as fabric panels or curtains, or you can even get creative with a pressurized wall. And you can also strategically place area rugs to create visual zones. So maybe you can't have the panels or stuff like that or curtains, but you can at least create these energetic zones using rugs, using area rugs. Also, depending on your layout, sometimes you'll have a living area like a sofa or something, and then you can create it with, a bookshelf or with a console or with a sofa table and put tall plants. And that can create a less, sort of an inexpensive screen or divider between the living area and the bed area.
Another thing to look at, which is similar to what Laura started with, is having these different types of activities in your home. You do want to focus on your sleep, especially if you have a really small space like a studio apartment. And you could start by focusing on your sleep by looking at making sure that you have, if you can, as much as possible, a standard mattress and setup. So a lot of people in smaller spaces may opt for a sofa bed or a Murphy bed, which is okay. Just make sure you have a supportive bed. Don't let your bed or your sleep suffer, and try to find the best you can afford, right? The best quality sofa bed or a Murphy bed that will not be a hassle to open up each time. And while it's not the best option to have a Murphy bed or sofa bed, it can work, especially if you establish a daily routine, like a mindful daily routine where you put the bed away every day in the morning and set it up again before you go to sleep. Because that's the purpose of having a Murphy bed or a convertible sofa bed, is that you want to put it away. But if you leave it out, you might as well just have a regular bed. And you can certainly have a regular bed in your studio apartment as well, or in your small space. But having a simple ritual, like the mindful daily routine of putting away the bed, if you have a sofa bed or a Murphy bed, is really helpful. If you have a regular bed, you can also just have a simple ritual of closing your space or closing that sleep space for daytimes, turning or creating some closure to the yin time of sleep and opening up to the yang time of daytime can really support you. So having a simple ritual by creating a mental and emotional separation between the energetic, active yang energy and the passive yin energy will really help to preserve any necessary boundaries to keep your small space calm and supportive. Something really simple is like just opening up all the window treatments. And if you can, maybe you can set up whatever your activity for the day is, not facing the bed. You can also try placing the bed towards the rear of the space, out of view from the front door. This position offers a more protective place for your sleep and really helps to secure a restful Feng Shui sleep position for you. And if your bed has to be in line with the door in a small space, you can hang a Feng Shui crystal ball from the ceiling somewhere between the edge of the bed and the door, or between you and the door. A Feng Shui crystal ball is a faceted man-made crystal ball like the size of a golf ball, 40 millimeters, and hanging that from the ceiling from a red string can divert the chi that's coming to you from the door. So that's a really great one to do if you have a really small space.
The next would be to give yourself a defined eating space. If possible, try to create this separate eating area. Again, we know this might be a challenge for some of you. The dining area is symbolic of how you nourish yourself. So it's important to have space where you can mindfully enjoy even a few minutes of, your breakfast or a cup of tea. This simple act can do wonders for your digestion. It can allow your body to truly enjoy the process of eating and drinking. And try this. You could try, if your space is tight, a wall mounted drop leaf table is a great option. It doesn't take up much room, but it provides a dedicated surface to eat on. So that might work with your space. Again, if you have maybe you have a little bit of a bigger space and you have a living area, but you don't have room for a dining area, and you even want to consider bringing, having people over to eat with you, there are convertible coffee tables that convert into dining tables, or at least raised larger tables that turn into that could be another option. And there's even a smaller scale, is you can now get these side tables that are quite clever, that again go up and down, swivel and turn, so they can become, a very small sized table, but they can at least be at eating height and you can sit and eat at them. So there's now on the market, there are lots of options for small space, convertible tables, etc. There's a lot of options.
And finally, the last kind of activity that might happen in a small space, a small home, is the workspace, especially nowadays. We have some kind of work at home situation happening, right? So having a consistent work area can be very powerful from a Feng Shui perspective, especially in a small space. So having a consistent work area, even if it seems transitional, is really helpful. So That means if you don't have a separate space for a separate desk, you can create a simple ritual that will transform like your coffee table or a little table that you have at the edge of your bed or the corner of corner of something like your nightstand, whatever it is, you need to transform into a workspace. Having a ritual around it, even if it's transitional, is really important. So having a place that you can carve out when you need it, when it's time for you to do some work. So if you use your kitchen or dining table, when that table is in use for dining, make sure that it's prepared for eating. So you can add a beautiful tablecloth or placemat and set up a lovely plate of food for yourself. But then when it becomes a workspace, make it a workspace. You can get a desk blotter, you can set up your laptop, and you can get like your pencil and your notebook set up so that you have it officially your workspace. So it can be multifunctional in the same space, but create some boundaries around when it's work time or when it's eat time or when it's like entertaining with friends time. So when you are working, make sure that you're placing yourself in the commanding position, meaning that you can ideally see the door of the space without being directly in line with the door. So that would be the best position if you could do that for whatever your transitional but consistent workspace is in your small home. And if you can't do that, you could set up a mirror so you could see the door. You want to also make sure that you have supportive and comfortable seating. And when you're done with that workspace and you're transitioning it into like a dining space, for instance, or a recreational space, be sure to put away your work items. So put away your computer and your devices, put away your notebook. And when it's time to get to work, you can put away the other items, right? So having clear visual and spatial and ritualistic boundaries on work time, eat time, play time, rest time is really helpful. So, when you're done eating your lunch, you can fold up the placemat or tablecloth. Then you bring out your computer and you get back into work mode. So it's really helpful to do that from a feng shui perspective rather than just having it all mixed together. Because that's one thing that we hear a lot is people really want to have more work-life balance. And something like this feng shui ritual can really help, especially if you don't have the room to have a separate eating space, a separate workspace, and a separate play space. And, and then when it's time to go to sleep, then you put everything away. So in conclusion, although a small space like a studio apartment can be tricky, there's definitely ways to make it work. We really emphasize the importance of separating your activities, your yin and yang areas, and to create spaces either physically and or with mindful rituals for sleeping, eating, and working. That way your home will be purposeful, special, and supportive of your unique needs. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of our podcast. You can tune in every Monday for a new podcast episode. If you like the Holistic Spaces podcast, please leave a review. You can subscribe. You can join our mailing list by visiting mindfuldesignschool.com/join. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.